When you eat a fruit, you say bרכות. When you squeeze this fruit and you drink the juice, you say only שלקות. It's losing the value of the fruit. The fruit is much more חשוב than the juice. So therefore, the juice doesn't have the chashivas of the fruit itself. So you don't say bרכות, you just say שלקות. Unless it is wine or oil that you squeeze from grapes or from olives. We all know that wine is very choshev, more than just a fruit. We all know that oil is very choshev, more than just a fruit. So then it doesn't lose the broche of bרכות. Although it's very hard to find a way that we should say bרכות on oil or wine. But the broche could be bרכות, it's not losing. The difference between grapes and olives that you make out of them oil or wine, the difference between them and other juices is not only when we speak about the broche. There are more differences in halachas between juice of regular fruit and between oil and wine in several halachas. Let us start with the halacha that fruit that is tibuli b'mashke, we have to wash. It's not a must, but it's better to wash. There's a machlekes, and it's better to wash your hands before. Like we do Pesach by the Seder, before we dip in the onion in the Salzwasser, we wash our hands, we don't say a broche. So what is called tibuli b'mashke? Tibuli b'mashke is when it is in water or in wine or in oil and other things. But when you dip it in juice, it's not considered tibuli b'mashke. The juice is not really considered as a thing for itself. It's not choshev. We can see it in the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch in Simen Kuf Nun Ches. It says in Sif Dalet, Ein Nikro Mashke Beloshen Atero Elo Zayin Mashkin. Which are the Zayin Mashkim? So he starts counting. Shehem Hamayim V'Hayayin V'Hashemen and other things. But then he says Sh'ar Kol Mei Peres, other juices. Afil b'mokem sherigilim lasis mashkim lishtiyo mistchitas eize peres. Shu choshev kemashke linyan Shabbos. We'll discuss soon what's the din of juice for Shabbos. Eine nikro mashke linyan tumo. Mashke linyan tumo is called only when it is oil or wine.
So what about the other four?
They're dam, and they're not in this terms. I don't go into that. But I'm speaking about fruit. There is only these two. All other fruits, their juice is not considered tibule b'mashke. Let's say you have a cookie that you want to dip it in orange juice, you don't have to wash. It's not considered tibule b'mashke. Only if it is dipping in to water or to wine or to oil. So we see again that the chashivas of juice is only bashemen and yain. But he says here that it's not like Shabbos. By Shabbos, there is a difference if you usually squeeze it or not. There is a din by Shabbos that you're not allowed to squeeze fruit. It is soichet. It's a tulde of dosh, and you're not allowed to do it. So over there also, the din minatere that you're not allowed to squeeze is only by olives and grapes. By other juices, it's only midrabanan. And sometimes, some days, even not midrabanan. In some cases. We're not going into the details, but in general we will see, as the Alter Rebbe is describing it in Siman Shin Chof, right in the beginning, he says, "Haseichet zeisim leitzim hem shemen, a anovim leitzim hem yain chayov." It is considered soichet. Aval sh'ar peres mutar lesochter min atero leitzim hem meyan. מפני שכל מי פרס אין עליהם תירס משקה, אלא היצים מן הזיצים מן הנובים בלבד, מדברי סופרים also. In medivre sofrim there is a difference. Today we have oranges that are special for juice and oranges that is special for eating. Even the one that is special for juice, when you squeeze it, you're not allowed midrabanan, but midiraisa it's good. Midrabanan it's also. If it is if you squeeze oranges that are made for food, not for drinking, not for making juice, then some say it is sometimes mutar, even midrabanan, sometimes it's not mutar, and there's a lot of details into it. We're not discussing it now. But the din of real juice, it should be considered choshev, is only by oil and by wine. We see it in Shabbos, we see it in Tibule b'mashke, and the same thing is here by the broche. All the others lose the broche of פירות. But yain and shemen didn't lose it. So, when we drink yain, we say פירות. When we drink oil, we say פירות. No. There's another reason to it. Why don't we say פירות when we drink wine? Because the Chachamim made the takone of the broches. If it is regular food, we say shehakel. If it is growing, we say פירות. If it's growing on a tree, we say פירות. If it's made out of it wine is such a choshev thing that they made a special bracha for it, פירות. So therefore we don't say פירות. Not because we can't say פירות, because they made another bracha for it, because it's a choshev thing. We say on it kiddush and other things, so it's a choshev thing. What's about oil? Oil, they didn't make a special bracha. So if you drink oil, you have to say פירות. But usually we can't, because no one drinks oil. It's not healthy and it doesn't have a taste. If you drink something that is not healthy and doesn't have a taste, you don't say a bracha at all. So when could you say a bracha? Theoretically, could be if you drink oil as a pill for your health. But even then you don't say, because oil is not drinkable and not healthy. Does have side effects and it's not good.
Some people like drink like 2 tablespoons of oil.
Yes, but they don't have to say a brocha on it if they drink for itself, because in general it's not made for it. There is one case that you do say פירות, which is if they don't just drink the oil, they need the oil for their health, but it doesn't have a taste, so they mix it in with water. When we mix it with water, it's not that bad. So then you could say a brocha. Which brocha? פירות. So you could say פירות and oil if it's mixed with water. But if it's mixed with water, and most of it is water, it's more water than oil, you should say shahakil, because water you don't say ho'etz and water. That is correct. But you drink it for your health. So the ikar in it is the oil. And the oil is פירות. But if you drink oil for itself, it's not healthy and doesn't have a taste, so you don't say a bracha. Even if they drink 2 spoons of oil for their health and it doesn't have a taste, you don't say a bracha. Like we all know when we take a pill, we don't say a bracha, because it doesn't have a taste. We eat it just for our health. But if they mix in with the oil some water, even the water is more than the oil, so the ikar is the oil, so becomes you say a bracha on the oil. The bracha on oil is פירות. It's not like other juices, so you have to say פירות. Let's see how he explains it inside.
I don't get how it could be not healthy and healthy at the same time.
In general, oil, when you drink oil, it has side effects and it's not healthy. But if someone has a problem in his throat and he wants to drink some oil to heal it, then it's refuah.
So it is healthy.
No,
But it doesn't have a taste.
too much oil is not healthy.
Too much oil is not healthy, and even if you drink a little bit, so you don't say a bracha on it. Because just like when you say a pill, even though the pill doesn't have a bad taste, and it's healthy, but it doesn't have a taste, you don't drink it, you drink it just for the health, for the pill, and so you don't say a bracha on a pill. More than that, if you take a pill, and usually after you take a pill, you have to drink a drop of water to swallow it down. The pill shouldn't stay in your throat. You don't say a bracha on the water also, unless you're thirsty, you want to drink water. But if you just drink water to swallow down the pill, you don't say a bracha, because it's just health. It has to be a taste that you want to drink it. But if the oil is mixed with a lot of water, then it has a taste of water, and you want to drink it. So then you say a bracha. And what bracha? Since the ikar is the oil, you say פירות. That's the only occasion when you say on squeezed food or eats. Let's see, this halacha is mavur bariches yeser in the Shulchan Aruch itself. But in Seder Birkas Hanhanin, he has all the halachas, just the essence of it. So we'll take it from there, and the explanations, if you ever want to get more details, you look on the Shulchan Aruch. But here is only the basics. So he says in Perek Zayin, Halach Yud Aleph, Kol ha-peres shesochton loitzi meimeyan, ein meimeyan chashuvim kemeisam levorach aleim פירות, אלא מברכים עליהם שהקל. חוץ מזייסים וענובים, שהמשקה היצא מהם כמסום, וראוי לברך עליהם ברפרץ. But we don't. We could. But when could we? He's going to explain it. אלא שהיין מפני חשיבוסי גרם ברוכה לעצמי, ברוכה מבוררס, ופרוטיש יצבי ברפרי הגופן. So you don't say ברפרץ. השמן איני מבורך עליו כלל כששסהו לבדי, מפני שהוא מזיק לי. And he doesn't have a taste. אלא אם כן חשש בגרני, ושיסהו לרפואה, he has some problem in his throat, and is drinking it for health, as a pill, מעורב בשאר משכן, שאף על פי שהשמן מועט, הוא העיקר שמחייבים בי לשתות לרפואה, ולכן מבורך עליו ברפרי העץ, ופטר המשקה שותף עליו. This is a summary of the halacha of juice. But then, let's take that and go to soup that we make. It's regular water. We just cook it with vegetable, it's a vegetable soup, and we ate both. So obviously on the vegetable, we would say bere preadomo. Or it's fruit. So it's not a soup, it's called the compote or whatever. And we eat the fruit, the cooked fruit with the water, and we drink the water. Even the juice, we say shehakil. So now when it's only water, certainly it should be shehakil. But it's not. When you eat a vegetable soup and you want to eat the soup, the fluid itself, you say bere prihadomo, not shehakil. When we make a compote, we cook the fruit with water, and then we want to eat the fruit and the water. So if we eat the water itself, what bracha do we have to make? There is a machlekes. We will discuss now why it is different than juice. Why is it more bracha than juice? And what is the difference between soup, vegetable soup, that certainly if you just eat the soup itself, you drink it or you eat it with the spoon, you say adomo. And why when you make a compote and you eat with the spoon only the fluid, there's a machlekes. What is the difference between all these three? So let's first discuss it, and then we'll see how he says it inside. The difference between soup and juice is because when it's made out of it juice, it's only juice. It's not made to drink the juice together with the fruit. Now you drink orange juice. But when you make a soup, a vegetable soup, and you eat it together, so it's made to eat together. And not only it's cooked to eat together. When you grow these vegetables that you make soup out of them, you're growing them in order to cook them with water. So therefore, the water here is completely bottled to the vegetable. The vegetable is growing in order to cook it with the water, and you cook it in order to eat it with the water. So the water becomes the part that makes the vegetable eatable as a vegetable soup. So the water is completely bottled to the fruit. So therefore, this water, this soup, The vegetable soup, when you drink the soup itself, you say ber priadomo, not shakel. And the same thing is also bakampot. You cook it in order to eat it together. So it's bottled, the water, the fluid is bottled to the fruit. So when you take a little bit of this water and you eat it in a spoon or in a glass that you drink, there is a machlekes if you have to say boire piro eitz or shakel. Okay, we understand the difference between juice and vegetable soup or compote. But what is the difference between vegetable soup that for certain, if you get a plate of vegetable soup and you start with your spoon to eat only the soup, the fluid of it, you certainly say ber pradomo. But when you take a compote of fruit with water and you start with the spoon with the fluid itself, there is a machlekes if you have to say adomo or eitz or you have to have shakel. What is the difference between soup and vegetable soup and compote? So the difference is, as I mentioned before, vegetable, even when you grow them, you have in mind they should grow out and then you make out of them vegetable soup. It's not made, potatoes is not made to eat without cooking. You could cook it in a lot of ways, but if it's made to make it out of it of vegetable soup, so it's growing in order to make a vegetable soup. So completely the water is bottled to the vegetable. So even if you take with a spoon the fluid itself of the soup, you have to say ber pradomo. But the fruit is not made only to make a compote. Fruit is made growing in order to eat it. Now you want to make a compote, so you're cooking it to eat it together, but you're not growing it to eat it together. So there is a machlekes if that is enough to say that the water is completely bottled to the fruit or not. So therefore, if you drink juice, you certainly say shakel. If you drink the soup, the vegetable soup, before you eat the vegetables itself, there is certainly you have to say ber pradomo. When you drink the fluid of compote, there is a machlekes. If the water is bottled to the fruit, and you say boire piro eitz, or it's not bottled, so you have to say ber pradomo. So you have to say shakel. So if there is a machlekes, what do we do? So let's see first how the Alter Rebbe explains the difference between soup of vegetable and between compote of fruit. And then we'll see what we have to do, which is a whole topic for itself, as we were going to learn soon. He says in Sif Yud Beis, Kol HaPeres, Afilu Zeisim V'Anovim, Sheshrom Bishlom B'Mayim, אף על פי שנכנס טעם הפרי במים, איני מבורך על ליסן המים אלא shakel. When you have a compote, you drink the water, the first day is that you have to say shakel. Soon we'll learn the second day. But he says that's only by compote. במדברים אמורים בפייריס, שדרכם לאוכל חי, you could eat it without cooking. אבל מן הירוקס שדרך האכילוסן על ידי בישול, if you make a vegetable soup, maybe שולן כמייסון, שעל דאס קיין נויטין אויסון, you plant it in order to have vegetable, to cook it with water, לאכול גם מימיהם, עם מוהם או עם פס. וליוצאו מתרס איכל לגמרי, לפיכך מבורך עליהם ברכת הירוקיס, you say on the soup of it, the fluid of it, you also say, boire priadomo. Af im bol lishtesa bismi atzmam. Even if you just drink the soup itself, you don't eat the vegetable. That's the first day. Second day, yesh oimrim, shekol ha-peres may be shulam mishriyosim kemesom, just like vegetable soup, vorach aleim bere prio eitz im bol lishtesa mifni atzmam. Why? Kiven she'ikir bishul hamayim bishul ha-peres. Ve'yesh lamash ketam ha-pri. Ba vegetable soup, certainly it's bottled, because it's growing in order to make out of it vegetable soup, and it's cooking in order to make out of it vegetable soup. But by fruit, you don't plant it to make compote. You plant it to eat it, but you're cooking it to eat it together. So then it's not so much bottled. So therefore, the first day says that you have to say hakel, ויש אומרים שכל הפרס בישול המשריות שעושים כמייסום, and you say better pro-eitz, even the sauce of the compote. Why? Because you cooked it together.
What about apples that are cooking apples? Like they're grown to be cooked?
In those days, it wasn't like that. So they didn't make the takone. They said that if it's fruit, there is a machlekes, because it's not growing only for that. If it's a case, a special case, we don't make new takones. He's just explaining the takones, how it's made then.
So we can't use that. We can't compare it to a vegetable.
It doesn't say, it's not brought in the Shulchan Aruch that in such a case we should do so.
Wait, just to be clear, like vegetable soup, like butternut squash soup is hadama?
We'll just get into details of vegetable soup soon, because there is a lot of difference. First, I explain the basic, and then the details we'll get soon.
With compote, what if you eat the fruit that's inside the compote?
Certainly on the fruit you have to say beer prates. But the question is, what bracha we should say on the fluid?
What if you eat it together?
If we eat together, I don't think that there is a problem. I didn't see it saying, no, I don't think so. But the question is, what do we do if I want to just drink a little bit, or after you finish other, I'm not speaking about apple cider, we're speaking about,
Different. It's all different.
that's a different, if apple cider and apple sauce, it's a different subject. We may get to it sometime, but now we'll speak about when you have the fluid of it and the fruit. So it's either you want to start with it, either you finished eating the fruit, you don't eat together with the fluid, and you have the fluid left over, you want to drink it out. So what bracha you should say? So since there is a machlekes, so what should we do? Shakel is not simple. Why? I'll explain. Usually, if you eat something you don't know if the bracha is shakel or ho'etz, you say shakel. But here, let's say you ate the fruit and you're left with the sauce and you want to drink the sauce. You cannot say shakel, because if the bracha is ho'etz, so you don't have to say any bracha, because you said already ho'etz on the fruit. So what should you do now? I want to drink it, and I don't know if I have to say a bracha, shakel, or I don't have to say a bracha. It's not the question if ho'etz or shakel. If you just drink it, and you're not eating the fruit, then there is no problem. You say shehakil. Like every time that you have a question, what broche, you say shehakil. We learned it last time by the rice. So since there is a suffix, we say shehakil. But here this is not a suffix if shehakil or ho'etz. Because you said already the ho'etz. So there is a suffix if you have to say a broche or not. So he says like this. When you come to eat and drink the kompot, first take a spoon of the kompot itself and say shehakil. Why? Because you didn't say yet ho'etz. So when you drink it, here's a suffix if shehakil or ho'etz. So you say shehakil, and it helps on it. Then you eat the fruit. Your shehakil that you made on the fluid, it didn't go on the fruit. It went only on this. So then after, when you eat later the fruit, you say ho'etz. And that's the best way to do. But this doesn't help when you said already ho'etz and you ate one fruit. Because now there is a question if you have to say a bracha on the fluid, or you don't have to say a bracha on the sauce. So what should you do?
Just like drink something else.
That's what you have to do. You have to drink some water and say shehakil, and then you could drink this sauce. So l'chatchila, before you start, you better start with the juice, with the sauce, and say shehakil. And this shehakil goes only on the sauce. And therefore later, when you start the fruit, you say adomo, ho'etz. But if you already ate the fruit, and then you want to drink the sauce, then you have to drink a little bit water and say shehakil.
It can't be part of a meal, right?
If it's a part of a meal, there is no problem.
No, but could it be?
No, but
Why not? When you part of a meal, so when you eat the fruit, you have to say ho'etz anyways.
Right.
When you drink the sauce, you don't have to say anything, because if it's part of the suda, fluid, water, you don't say a bracha on it.
even though it's dessert.
That's so interesting.
And if you drink water in the end of the meal, you don't say shehakil. Even you drink it because you want
Hey, that's
the food to go down.
Right.
So when you drink something for after the food, you don't have to say a bracha. When you eat a fruit after it, then you have to say ho'etz. So then there wouldn't be a problem here. So then he could eat it in the middle of the meal and wouldn't be a problem. But when you just go to somewhere and they give you kompot, so the best way is to say a shehakil on the fluid first, and then eat the fruit and say ho'etz. Let's see how the Alter Rebbe explains it. In Sif Yud Gimel. V'chol zeh lotzis yedim, no, in Sif, in the end of Sif Yud Beis. V'yelkach, lechatchila yevorach al amorok shehakil, v'yetzel edivre hakil, because every time we have a suffix, if the brocha is shehakil or ho'etz, we say shehakil. And then we'll say ho'etz on the fruit. אבל אם אוכל מתחילה הפרי, ובירך עליו בערב פרי הועץ, ואחר כך בוא לשתיס המורוק, ליברך על המורוק shehakil. כשהמנפתח כבר בברכת בערב פרי הועץ. So then you don't have to say any brocha. על כן, טוב שישתה דבר אחר, take a little juice or water, תחילו, לברך עליו shehakil. Then you could drink it.
That'd be great.
But the question is, if you said shehakil on the fruit, of the juice, on the sauce, even if the bracha is ho'etz, so you had in mind it should help even the ho'etz. So how could you then, when you eat fruit, you say ho'etz again? You said already shehakel, and you meant to be poiter even the ho'etz of the juice. So why should you have to say again ho'etz?
You're saying on something else or on the cooked fruit?
Cooked fruit that you first start with the juice, with the sauce. And you say shakel. And you have in mind that it should help on the sauce, even if the sauce bracha is berepri. So you had already in mind to be moitzi the bracha of berepri. How could you now say a bracha berepri on the fruit? So let's see one more halacha that the Alter Rebbe is explaining in, say the Bרכot in Perik Aleph, halacha Vov. You have vegetables and you have fruit. Hoyele van of prio adomo, u prio eitz, u birech tchilo al prio adomo. Zorg lazer u levorech al prio eitz. Ki le nifter beberes prio adomo, elok shebirech olov, elok shebirech al prio adomo. If you made the berech prio adomo on something else, it doesn't help for this. So therefore, when you say shehakil on the water, on the sauce of the compote, it helps only on the water, even if the bracha of it is berepri. It doesn't help on the fruit. So then when you come later and you eat the fruit, you say berepri. So that's the bottom line. If you're getting a vegetable soup, you have no problem. You always say berepri adomo on everything. It doesn't matter if you start with the sauce of the soup or you start with the vegetable of the soup. Everything is berepri adomo, there is no question. But if you eat fruit that is cooked with water, so when you start with the sauce, you have to say shehakel and to have in mind that it helps, even whatever it helps on the sauce, but it doesn't help on the fruit. So therefore later when you eat the fruit, you say berepri. If you ate first the fruit, you said berepri, then you don't know if you have to say a bracha on the sauce. So it's better to take a little bit of juice or water and say shehakel and then drink this. So we discussed that when you eat soup, you have to say adomo. There is two kinds of soup. We are speaking now about vegetable soup. Even vegetable soup, there is two kinds of soup. There is one kind that you have in the soup, vegetable and water. There is a second kind that is all grinded and it becomes only water, only fluid, like they always give this kind of soup. So then you have to say on it berepri adomo? No. You have to say shehakel. It's vegetable soup. But by vegetable soup we discussed that you have to say on it shehai adomo because the water is bottled to the vegetables. Here there is nothing to be bottled to. The whole vegetable is grinded and made out of it a soup. So it's not bottled. So you say shehakel. Vegetable soup that you have to say adomo if there is in the plate vegetables and water. But if it all grinded and became watery, then you say on it shehakel. And we all realize that by ourselves. Let's say you would drink a cup of tea. What bracha do we say?
Chocolate.
Why? It's cooked with hot water together with something that is growing. It doesn't become bottle because we're not eating what's growing. We just got the taste out of it or grind it. Let's say we drink a cup of coffee. We don't say on it bere pradomo. Even though the whole coffee is grown in order to make the cup of coffee. The water doesn't become bottled to the coffee because there is nothing to eat separate. So therefore, on tea and coffee, we say shahakil. So the same thing is also soup when there is no vegetables in it.
But regular vegetable soup. Oh,
No, you can know.
regular vegetable soup with vegetables.
Yes.
Kadama.
Yes. But if it's grinded and it becomes all liquid, then you say shahakil.
Like if it's blended.
It's blended and it became liquid together with water. It's like tea or coffee.
So if you take the vegetables out of the broth.
No, unfortunately.
I don't know if you take out of it because it says even if you drink it for itself. But it's made to eat together.
But sometimes
So it's
you don't.
bottled.
Sometimes you don't. Like sometimes you just.
So
put
you
that
don't
out.
want to.
Oh.
But it's made. It's cooked in order to eat together. If it's cooked in order to eat together, it's bottled. But by the tea and coffee, it's not cooked to eat together. It's cooked just to drink it. So it's like soup that is blended and the whole thing becomes fluid. And not only coffee and tea. The same thing is by beer. Beer is made out of grain or barley. But when you drink the beer, you don't say adobo. You say shahakil. Because there is only fluid. So it's not bottled to anything. It has to be, when it's cooked, bottled to something else. Or made in order to eat together.
I have a question. Is there a difference between like a drink that's kind of like a food? Because a soup, you can eat it even if it's blended, it's nourishing enough like for your supper. Tea or coffee or beer is never going to be a food.
Okay, but that's not the issue. It doesn't have vegetables to be bottled to. Let's see this, I explained it, let's see it inside and we'll see the details.
I also have another question. What if you have other things in the soup besides for vegetables?
We'll discuss it. We'll get it stage by stage, not everything together.
Yeah, but I still have your question also. Because people make broth.
Let's see if halacha yud dalet. The whole ze, when is it bottled to the vegetable? Ksheshron a bishlon, if it was soaked and or cooked in order to eat it with the water. It doesn't make difference if you eat now the vegetable itself, but it's cooked to eat together. She'os tiras morek aleim, that the water is bottled to the vegetables. Aval im shron a bishlon lishtis memein levat. If there is nothing in vegetable that you eat, so it's not bottled to eat. Ein shei morek aleim elo shei mashke. ולדברי הקל מבורך עליו שהקל נהיה בדבורי או ברנפושס ולכן מבורכים המים מבושלים עם עולים שקרן תה שהקל. The same thing, there is kind of drink they do when they cook fruit with water. Not for eating the fruit, just for a drink. But it should have a good taste. They put in their raspberries or blueberries, and they cook it together, and then it's made that the fruit you throw out. It's cooked already and there's nothing left there. But it's made to drink. So when you drink that, you also say shehakel for sure. And not bere priadom or bere prioitz. Apple, shekeren apple kwas, drink of that you cooked with apple, or with blueberries, kwas, drinks that is made that you cook it together with tutim, shehakel nibedvoring, v'chein shetias akave. When you say drink coffee, even though it's mixed with something that is growing, you say shehakel. So the difference is when you cook it, if it's made to eat it together, then it's bottled. But if it's made to drink it, you say shehakel.
So broth. So then the Dvorah's question would be shakel. Broth. Like if you put vegetables just to have the drink, and then you take them out, then
Yes.
it's shakel.
Well, that's
Yes.
a little different because you do want to eat it. You want to have it as a food.
If you want to eat it together,
Meaning you want to eat it as a soup. You don't want to drink it in a cup. You want to eat it as soup with a spoon.
doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
As long you can't bite it, it's considered as fluid. No, it says even if it's not biting, but you have to squeeze it with your tongue, it's also considered food. But if it's not, you don't have to do nothing, it's considered fluid. So therefore, this kind of soup that it's made only, even if there is vegetables, but it's not made for the vegetables, only for the drinking or eating with the. When they give an chasen, it's always the soup. They don't give it in the soup in a cup. They give it in a plate. But there's nothing else there, only this kind of soup that you just eat it with a spoon, but it's fluid.
So the answer was chocolate?
Yes. If it's made only without vegetables that you eat, or without fruit that you eat,
Why would it be hadama?
if it would be bottled to the vegetable, just like soup that you have vegetables in, so even if you just drink the soup of it, you say, "Ber pradama."
See the vegetables.
If it's cooked in order to eat it together, then it's bottled. But if it's cooked to drink it separately, then it's not bottled.
What if it's cooked to eat it together, but you don't like the vegetables?
Doesn't matter.
Still make hadama?
No, yes,
So what
because
kind of soup is made not to eat together?
I tell you, when you go, I always, when I go to Chassan and they give the soups, there's no vegetable in it, but it's vegetable soup. It's grinded, and you don't have anything there. So then it's like tea and coffee, that it's not made to eat together with vegetables. It's made just to drink or to eat with a spoon. So it's not, there is nothing to be bottled to. It's bottled only if you want to eat the vegetables and you eat it together with the fluid.
Why are drinks inherently not chashuv?
So if you have chicken soup and you just eat
By
the
juice?
top of it, it's
No,
hadama?
any drink.
Why shouldn't it be shakel? It's just water. Meat also you say shakel. The reason by water why it's shakel, because it's not growing.
Vegetables in it.
But the
If you don't like
juice
vegetables, you're just eating the broth. Like,
is
if it's
because
chicken,
it's not choshev as the fruit itself, so it lost its bracha.
But that's what I'm saying. Why is a solid more chashuv than a liquid?
Not,
It's
Well,
not.
it is.
no. But if it's vegetable, it's growing. So you say adomo. If it's fruit, it's growing on a tree. So you say oitz. But if it's not, then you say shakel. But if you you drink water, it's shakel because it's not growing. But if you cook water with the vegetables, the water gets the bracha of the vegetables, even though the water is not growing, but it's bottled to the
So
vegetable.
the pureed fruit or the pureed vegetable, because it's liquid, it becomes not grown anymore, or it becomes what?
It's not growing, so the water of it is not bottled. So the ikir is the water. It's a drink. So it's not better than juice. Just like juice comes out of the vegetable or of the fruit, you say shakel. So this also you say shakel. Even if you have something of the fruit and vegetable, because it's made to drink.
So it's like the water becomes the ikar?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
But now we'll discuss another way that we made vegetable soup or compote. It's made for drinking only, but you have there some pieces of the vegetable or of the fruit. I mentioned before that here when you want to drink, you buy juice. I remember when I was in Russia, they didn't have the juice. So they would take little apples or raspberries, cook it with water, and then the water had a good taste, so you drink it as a juice.
Cider?
What?
Like apple cider?
Like apple cider. And what do you do with the apples after you make the apple cider? Usually?
Eat them.
Eat them. So then you eat together. Over there, I mentioned that it's not made. When you cook water with raspberries, the raspberries is nothing left. So it's not made to eat the raspberries. And that's why I said that they had there. They took little apples that is not really made to eat. So you cook with it the water, and then you take out the apples and you just drink the water. Obviously, you say on it, shakir. But the question is, they didn't take out all the apples or the raspberries or whatever it was. There was left some. And I want to eat them. Do I say on them, Beripriadoids? Or a compote that is made, a vegetable soup that is made with vegetable, only grinded, only fluid, that you say shakel. But there is some pieces not grinded good enough, and you take with your spoon a piece of the vegetable. So you have to say on this piece of vegetable, adomo? No. Just like usually when it's made for the vegetable soup and you eat both, the water is bottled to the vegetable. When it's made to be only as fluid, there was left by mistake or whatever reason, some vegetables, some fruit, they are bottled to the water. Even if you have a piece of vegetable that is not grinded good enough and you pick it up with a spoon and you eat it, you also don't have to say Bere Pradomo, because they are bottled to the water.
What if it's very thick? That like the
I told you there is a rule of thickness that if you have to squeeze it with your tongue. If it's just going down and you don't have to squeeze it, then it's called fluid.
If you have to squeeze it, then it's adama?
If you have to squeeze it, then could be.
How do you squeeze it?
Could be, because it's negay more to mezanis kind, the kasha kind. We'll get to it
Like
soon.
mashed potatoes.
No.
Mashed potatoes, usually it's not made to just drink it. Mashed potatoes, you have to do it with your tongue.
Right.
That you don't have to bite it. That's why they say it's considered as mashed potatoes, even it's, you don't have to bite it, because you still have to squeeze it with your mouth.
And then it's adama?
Then it's a domo. We'll discuss soon. Let's finish with that, and then we'll discuss the mashed potatoes and the applesauce. Applesauce is just similar to mashed potatoes.
Right.
So we'll discuss
My
that.
mother makes vegetable soup that's kind of thick. Like, it's not like water. Even though she's grinds it.
Yeah.
You have to squeeze your tongue?
Yeah, it's not like a drink. It's like...
So if you have to squeeze it, so we'll speak soon. We'll speak soon about the mashed potatoes and the applesauce. So let's first not mixed in two subjects. Let's finish with that. There is more details into what we're speaking now before we get to that.
Where in Russia did you live, Rabbi?
The Rebbe sent me for this forum, and I was there a year and a half. So all my free time, I used to teach in yeshiva, to run the yeshiva. So in the yeshiva, they used to give drinks. They didn't give juice, orange juice in bottles. They just cooked apples, and then they gave to drink. So I remember that from that, because it was strange for me. For me, it was strange then. But I just take it as example to explain. We'll see that halacha now inside. Sif Yudalid.
I'm gonna make kampa.
No, we get now to Sif Tezayin.
Americans don't really
Oh my god, it likes it.
Im Iker in Sif Tezayin. Im Iker Abishel Bishvil Amorok. It's made for drinking or with a spoon, but it's drinkable. Bein b'mine kidneys, bein b'mine dogem, mevorchim shehakel. Always it's shehakel, because it becomes fluid. Af im eichel gam ken a tafshelimei. There is a little bit of the tafshel still not grinded enough, and you eat it. It's bottle, ein tofel of klal, vein niftar bebirkosei. You don't have to say a broche on the vegetable itself, because the vegetable is bottled to the water, and the water is not bottled to the vegetable. That's if it's fruit or vegetables. But then there is another din if it is from Chamishim Mine Dogan. You make a kind of soup from Chamishim Mine Dogan.
Mushroom barley soup.
Barley soup. And it's made only to drink. But there is also still a little bit of the barley state. Then the water doesn't become bottled to the barley, and the barley doesn't become bottled to the water. You have to say a separate bracha. And it's a special din for the Chamishim Mine Dogan. Let me explain that. When you eat a pie cake, you say Beri Minim Zenes, and you eat the fruit that is in it. When you eat a cheesecake, you say Beri Minim Zenes, and you eat the cheese too. You don't have to say shehakel on the cheese. Why? Usually if you have two things, so you should say two brachas if you eat that separate and that separate. But there is a klal that Chamishim Mine Dogan is much more choshev than other things. So every time that you have a pie or a cheesecake or a knish, you don't have to say a separate broche on the potatoes in the knish, or a separate broche on the cheese in the cake, or a separate broche on the fruit in the cake. Because always the mizaynus of it, the Chamishim Mine Dogan of it, is more choshev. So therefore, usually, if you make the drink only for drinking, so then the fruit or the vegetables that is left there, bottled to the water, and the shehakel helps on all. If the main thing is the vegetables, then the water is bottled to the vegetables. So you say only Adama. But here, by the soup that you make out of barley, the barley can't become bottled to the water, because Hamisha min Dogon is never bottled to the water or to anything else. So then, should you say Berem min Mezenes and it should help on everything? No, you can't say that too. Why? I'm saying many basics, and I just say it slow. I hope you don't get lost in all the details. But I'll explain it. If you don't follow up, ask me and I'll explain it again, because I know it's hard. I'm changing the frames of what I'm speaking. When you have a barley soup, the barley, same as Enes, it doesn't help on the water. Why? Because there is another halacha. If you take barley, you make out of it a kasha that is made to drink, even it's only you take flour and you mix it with water, you cook it with water, and it's fluid, you don't say mezenes. Mezenes is only when you eat it. And as I mentioned before, only if you have to bite it or squeeze it with your tongue. But if it becomes fluid, it's losing the bracha of berem in the mezenes. You say an itchahakel. So therefore we have here a problem. We have a barley soup. Barley usually becomes the ikar, and the mezenes goes on all. That's if it's not fluid. But fluid, even if it's barley fluid, it becomes shakel. So the barley soup, the fluid of it cannot become bottled to the barley itself. Because B'chamisha min Dogon, when it becomes fluid, it's shakel. So therefore, in this case, the barley doesn't become bottled to the soup doesn't become bottled to the barley, so therefore the best thing is to say berem min mezenes as the barley and to say shahakel on the soup of it. But if it's vegetable soup, if the whole purpose is to eat the fluid of it, you say shahakel and the vegetable is bottled to it. If it's made to eat with vegetable, then the water is becoming bottled to the vegetable. Either this is becoming bottled to this, either this is becoming bottled to that. But by barley soup, it doesn't become bottled. The barley is not becoming bottled to the water, because Hamisha min Dogim is always the ikar, and the water doesn't become bottled to the barley, because even if it's barley and it's fluid, it's still shakel. So therefore you have to say a separate bracha on this, a separate bracha on that. Let's see how he explains it inside. And again, if it's getting complicated, don't feel...
If you eat, let's say, a pie, but you don't eat the crust of it, you only eat the fruits inside, you need to make...
If you eat only of it, it's not that clear. If you also eat a little bit of the mezenes, then even 80% of it is the pie, the fruit. Everything mezenes goes on all.
So is it good to eat just a drop of the mezenes?
And what do you do when you eat a cheesecake?
Yeah, and you don't like the bottom, let's say?
And only the bottom. So if it's only a drop, and the bottom is only made to hold it or to paste it together, then the whole thing becomes shakel, because the crest of it is just to make the whole. But if you make it, you should eat it, and you should have the taste of it. This becomes the ikea. You say only better minimum zenes. You eat the whole thing, even it's a little bit.
And if you don't like the bottom, so you don't eat it?
So then I don't think it's a clear thing.
I have another question. What if the grain is like, it's not, it's like whole, so then it would be a dama. Would it still be not be able to be batal?
I think it will, because it doesn't become mezenes. Only when it becomes mezenes, it becomes the iker. But when it's still like kloyes, it is still not.
So mushroom barley soup is whole. No.
Yes, but it's the clipper of it is off. You peel it automatically, and then it's pasting a little bit. If it's not pasted, then we'll learn already last time. There's a machlekes if it's considered that or not. So it's not a clear thing. If it's not pasted, if you have to say on it adomo or benzenes, and then you say beder adomo. But there is still more problems to it, because then adomo is helping. But then after that, there is a question if you should say beder nefoshes or alamichya. So it's a problem.
Eat it a meal.
What?
So eat mushroom barley soup at a meal.
In the middle, there is no problem.
No, I'm saying that's what you should do.
If it's in such a case when there is a suffix, if it's considered mezenes
Or just cook it a lot so that it gets sticky.
yes. If it gets sticky, then there is no problem. It for certainly.
What gets sticky? Oh, the
So
soup.
barley, yeah.
So none of these are-
No. Then the barley's mezenes and you make chocolate and soup.
Usually, if it's in a soup, it doesn't stick that much.
Right. But I guess, I don't know, the way my mother does it, she cooks it separate. She cooks the barley separate, makes the soup, and then adds the barley to it. So even if it's not sticking in the soup, the barley is sticking.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
So let's see inside now.
What?
I never eat this.
What? You don't like it?
Here, now we're going to see how the Alter Rebbe explains this kind of soup. Elo, since it's mini dogon, lasis al הצד היסטי ורואי לבורך תחילו על המורוק ולישתס ממנו בפני עצמי ואחר כך יבורך על התבשיל אם הוא מיני דוגון. If it's dogon, this is not bottle and this is not bottle, so you have to say separately. אבל אם הוא מיני קיטניאס, which is not from the חמישה מינים, לבורך על התבשיל כלל, because the kidneys is bottled to the water, לפי שהוא תופל על המורג ונפטר בלבחוסי, כיוון שיקר הבישלו בשבילי, וכן בפרס, שיקר בשבילו בשביל מורג, but if it's barley, it can't be bottled to that. So then, each one is not bottled to the other one. So then he explains why shouldn't the water become bottled to the barley? He says in Sifyotes, Afilu im ha-meichel min dogon, ein nechshav iker liftir ha-morg be-berchosei. We already know that every time that we have something that has minim, from chamisha minim, that's the iker. So why shouldn't the water be bottled to it? לפי שאף מין דוגון עצמי שנעשה רך וראוי לשתיו כמורוק אין מבורכים עליו ברንም מן המזנס. So therefore the water cannot become bottled to the barley because the water is drinkable and something that is drinkable is not becoming bottled to the חמישה מיני דוגון. Let's go now to the subject of mashed potatoes or applesauce. There is some applesauce that when you have it, you see on it that it's apples. It's not grinded completely. You grind it, it's very thin, but you still see what it is. There is no question that the broch of bרכת stays.
Applesauce?
Yeah,
Or height.
hoitz. Bרכת is there. I meant, we also spoke about mashed potatoes. Then, if it's not grinded completely, you see it is potatoes, you say bרכת. But if it's grinded completely, there is a machlekes. And the maskona is that if it's made to do that, everyone knows that mashed potatoes is made to be mashed potatoes. Then it's still bרכת, even if you don't realize on it that it comes from potatoes. The same thing is by applesauce. By applesauce it's very strange, because generations ago it would be that if you make mashed potatoes, you have to say adoma, because it's made for that. Everyone in his house makes it. But applesauce, people didn't make it usually to be applesauce. Yes, they grind some of it for a baby or something, but it's not made to become a food. Now companies are doing that. So it became the nature. It should become like that. So therefore people say that now even applesauce is always bרכת, because it's made for, even if it's grinded so good that you don't realize that it's apples.
Why?
Because it's made now. People are doing it. If it's the derech to eat the apples like that, so that when you grind it, it doesn't lose its broche. If it is, you could see on it that it's apple, or even if you can't see, but it's made, people are doing that, then the broche stays.
What about fruit shakes? Smoothies? Smoothies.
Which is,
Like blended fruit that you drink, like smoothies. Like,
yes.
Fruit shake.
If it's drinking, it becomes drinking. We're speaking about applesauce is not made to drink.
But a smoothie bowl is thicker.
No, but it's thicker. You could eat it with a spoon. Like sorbet.
If I don't know how much it is. I told you the rule between fluid and not fluid is if you have to squeeze it with
Even
it.
if it's very, very, very smooth, you don't see what it is. It's like the consistency of
Yes, if it's made for it and it's not fluid,
You have to make eggs.
then you make eights. But if it's fluid or it's not made for it and you don't realize, you don't see on it where it comes from, then it's shakel. So that's the rule of the...
Would vegetables be stricter than fruit?
No, the difference between them is only if you make a vegetable soup,
No, if it's fully fruit.
it's certainly that it's certain that the fluid is bottled to the vegetable because it's growing for that. But by fruit, it's a machlekes if the fluid is bottled to the fruit because it's not built for that. It's growing in order to eat it.
But like, let's say potatoes, they're definitely grown to be cooked.
Right.
Apples not necessarily.
Correct.
So-
But we're speaking now not about the soup or that you have fluid and fruit. That's when the machlekes, the chilek is if it's bottled. Here is the question if this itself
A very thick smoothie.
became
Hey, that's what it sounds like.
shakel, or this itself stays as beriproits or adomo. Then the rule is it has to be, you could recognize on it what it comes from, or it's made like for it, and it's not becoming fluid.
But it's very normal for apples.
So if you take like frozen fruit and like blend it up and it's very thick and like you need your tongue to eat it, is that height?
Yes.
Okay. So like sorbet.
If it's made for that.
What do you mean if it's made for that?
Because if you take something that is not made to become sauce and you make out of it sauce, then there is a machlekes and you can't realize what it is.
People mango, it's not, people make smoothies with mango, it's very normal.
So it's very difficult to understand what means made for it. Therefore, by apples, for example, in previous generation, they would make on it
They
shakel.
wouldn't realize it's an apple.
Now, because you can't realize it's apple. Now, they say companies are making it so much and it's in every house, so it becomes the derech. So then it becomes ho'etz. Some people say still that it's not ho'etz, it's shakel. Why? Because companies are making it, but you're not making it. I don't know, it's not a clear thing. But in general,
Sounds
now,
like smoothies. They'll know it's
okay, so that's the rule. If you recognize what it is, it's always staying. If it's not recognized, it's different if it's derech or not. And today, very difficult to know what's the derech. And if it becomes fluid, then for certain it loses its bracha.
What if you can't recognize it because it's mixed with other fruits? Like,
If it's mixed with the other, you go always, and then you have to say, and the other foods also ho'etz. If you don't recognize at all what it is, so it's again.
But if you know it's all fruit, then you basically know.
Yeah, but
like in the olden
certainly, but in the olden days when you make applesauce, you certainly know what it is. But if it's not, you don't see on it, and it's not made for it, then
What if there's like a little piece of fruit on top? Like, you know, last year we learned about like the almond milk, that like you put almonds when you know what it is. So what if you like put a little piece of fruit on top that everyone knows it's the fruit?
then you
Is that
say
like
anat.
for sure?
Yes, sure. Why not?
Saying on the fruit.
Then there is different. What's called recognize is also not clear. They're discussing if the popcorn, if you recognize it's corn. So, but they say that since the root stays, so then it stays, and you say adomo. There's also discussion of that. So that's I'm just explaining the rules of it, and then to say on each one what it is, then there is not always a common decision, and I'm just explaining the basics.
But what's complicated is that a lot of this stuff you can't eat in a meal. Like, let's say a smoothie. You can't.
Because it's
gonna be a
fruit.
Dessert, yeah.
Yes. So then doesn't help.
Is it
for
better
that.
to make just a ha'etz and something else and then eat it?
If you could say shehakel if you don't know. We already discussed that you could say shehakel. We discussed it by the rice, and we discussed it today by the compote. That you take the sauce and you say shehakel because you don't know if it's shehakel. So every time that you don't know what brocha, you just say shehakel. And if you know for sure, you don't know if it's a domo, you eat something, you don't know if it's called a tree or it's called a bush. So then you say a domo, and it helps.
Right. But, so interesting. So this middle category of like kind of a liquid, kind of a solid. So what do you do? Because it's a suffix.
By every sofek you say shehakel.
Right.
But I'm just trying to say when there is no sofek. So if you know the basics, so usually you would know.
Mm-hmm.
There's no sofek by smashed potatoes, by puree. And today, usually people say that applesauce is the same.
What about instant mashed potatoes? So it's like a powder. It's not really, but it looks like, meaning it was potatoes and now it looks like potatoes, but in the middle it was a powder.
Doesn't taste like potatoes. Don't eat that.
It's purely food.
Just stay away.
I don't know this. That's a general question on many things.
What?
It's a question not only by that. It's a question by wine. Sometimes it's difficult to travel so many bottles of wine, so they take out all the liquid and make a powder of it, and then they add water and becomes wine. The question if it's beret ofen or shakel, and some other things like that. I'm not going to finalize ever a question. I'm just explaining. You should know what the basics. What's the reason for here or there, and then you understand what we are talking about.
That makes sense. Okay, sorry. So I have another question. It's also a detail, so you don't have to answer it. But with the mushroom barley soup, right? So there's sometimes, I mean, the Alter Rebbe seems to be talking about where it was really for the liquid. A lot of times when people have mushroom barley soup, there's a lot of barley. Like you want to eat the barley. That's like part of the. So then that would be the ikar, right? Or
if you want to eat that, we already discussed that this is the ikar.
you want to eat both.
Then yes. Here he speaks about when it's made mainly. He gives even a sample that they used to do it. They call it. Is it here? He says in Siftes Vov. אם עיקר הבישל בשביל המורק לבדי, כמו שמבשלים שעורים לכל לישטיס המורק, מבוכים עליו שקל נימי דבורים. It's barley, but it's made for drinking only. And you drink it. So then there is no question that you have. So he says the sample. They didn't do the barley soup. They made the barley soup for health reasons. Lechoile lishtis amorok, they say is barley, and he cook the barley for a sick man. He should drink the soup of it. So they used to be, but then they didn't make usually a barley soup, only for. So he brings, but he speaks about this case.